Hello and welcome to the Formidable Over 40 podcast. I'm Sarah Pittendrigh, a mum, award-winning entrepreneur, cancer survivor, mentor and coach. In series 2 of the podcast, we're sharing new stories along with the ethos that you are never too old and it's never too late to design a life you love. On this episode, I'm joined by Nicola Wood, founder of the Wonderful Wig company. Age 36, Nicola was diagnosed with invasive breast cancer. With an existing autoimmune disorder, the stress of a cancer diagnosis only exacerbated her existing autoimmune illness and her battles with hair thinning. During her diagnosis, Nicola realised that the existing services for people suffering from hair loss were not good enough. So, she set out on her mission to provide the best hair loss service in the UK. The Wonderful Wig company have now supported over 5,000 people and are an NHS-approved supplier to 15 different hospitals and trusts around the north of England. Nicola has a truly inspiring story. I am so excited to hear all about it on this episode of the Formidable Over 40 podcast. Hi, Nicola. I'm so glad you're here with us today. How are you?
What an introduction. Thank you. I'm very pleased to be here, Sarah. Thank you.
Oh, it was a Nicola. I've given a bit of an introduction, but honestly, there's so much more to share. Would you give some more information to the listeners or anyone watching on YouTube all about you, who you are and what you do?
Oh, okay. So in a nutshell, if you cut us in half, I'm a hairdresser. That was all I've ever wanted to do. Since I was a little girl, I just wanted to be a hairdresser. I did all right at school, and my mum really wanted me to be an engineer, use my brain, go to uni, that kind of thing. So I kind of went along with that for a short while. But in my heart, I just wanted to do hair, and so I said to mum, like, I'm not going to do it anymore, and I kind of stood my ground. And when I was 19, I left university and I left engineering behind, and I became a hairdresser. 2 years later, when I was 21, I opened up my salon. So from age 21, I ran a very small family-run business in the suburbs of Sunderland. I saved up £4,000 and I borrowed £4,000, and that's how I opened it. Coming in a prayer. And there I remained ever since, very, very happy. I only ever employed 3 or 4 people, just a lovely little high-end boutique type salon out of town, and it just really worked. I've been very happy there ever since. And when I was 36, so fast forward 15 years if you want to, when I was 36, I found out that I had cancer. And it just changed my life. It changed my life as it does. It changed my future. But for many ways, yes, scary and crappy going through all of that. But I am very grateful now that I got cancer. I see every gift that it's given me, and my life is so much more full since because of that.
Yeah.
What I noticed in that time of having cancer was that I just saw so many people without the hair. I saw so many bad wigs, I want to say. And I just saw the power in that and in somebody's well-being, and how you could either look like Nicola or you could look like Nicola with cancer. And the hair really did that for everybody that I met. And I had just this epiphany moment, sat in radiotherapy one day with my husband, and I turned to him and I said, this is the reason I got cancer. I got cancer so that nobody has to wear a crap wig again. And so I set out on a bit of a mission, researched for the entire, I was off, I want to say about a year. I spent that time researching every provision I could find in the country and abroad, researching what was available, and training with the world's best people to become one of the UK's most qualified experts in hair loss. And when I went back to work about a year later, I opened a facility that my husband purpose built for me and borrowed some money at a time when we had no money. He let me do this crazy idea because it just it was my purpose, it was my mission, and that was the reason that I was getting better, because I had to get better because this service was needed. That was my kind of ethos, and it really, really drove me forward on the darkest days. I had to get better, I had to get through this because this is what I had to do. And so we opened, and the rest is history. I'm here now 5 years later with a huge business, really. I employ 20 people in that business. We run a 7-figure business. We've doubled year on year on year. We've done great, my little team. I've still got lots of goals to smash.
We'll talk about those a little further on in the interview. But one of the things that really struck me there with what you said, and it really resonated with me, was that cancer makes you grateful. And it's hard to explain, isn't it, unless you've kind of gone through that, because people would say, well, how can you be grateful? But it's different, isn't it? I don't know about you, but I see the world through different eyes. Does that make sense? Do you know what I mean by that?
Oh, 100%. So I'm currently writing a book, and one of the things that I was doing a talk for the NHS and talking to people with cancer, which is my favourite part of one of the favourite things that I do. And what I do now is I get to speak to people who are right in the thick of it. And I said to them on this Zoom call, about 30 women, I said, I can think today of 100 reasons that my life is better since I got cancer. And they were all, and I said, okay, well, I'm further down the line than you, so I can think of 100. And all I want today is for you to think of one reason or one lesson that you've learned or one strength that you've found in yourself that has been improved since you had cancer. And everybody could. It makes you see the world very differently. It makes you have different relationships. It makes you appreciate the tiny things in life.
It does. And I think it also makes you appreciate the things you don't want anymore. People are always saying to you, you need this. You take cancer out of it, yeah. So beforehand, it's like, you need to be this, you need to have that, you've got to aspire to this, you've got to be, and it's like, and what cancer taught me, and I don't know if it was similar for you, but I suddenly realized, hang on a minute, there's so much in my life I don't want, never mind what I do want, and I went through a real decluttering and unraveling phase where I used to worry so much about what people thought of me. I used to be terribly worried. I've been agoraphobic. I suffered from terrible panic attacks, anxiety, I had a real breakdown in my 20s. And when I look back, cancer taught me, it was like, hold on, take a step back. Let's just think about what's really important in life. Yeah, what's really important. People who judge you, which used to worry me, it's like nobody would judge you if they were playing in the same arena as you, because they would know how hard it's been for you to get to where you are. Yeah. So you have to look at the source of who's judging you and who's criticizing you, and consider who they are and why they're doing it. And once I learned that and got rid of all of that sort of stuff, it really helped me to be grateful for who I am and what I've got. What would you say out of all the things that you're most grateful for? Obviously, we're grateful that we're here and we're still alive, but what would you say that you really, that cancer's shown you that you maybe hadn't realised before?
Okay. Oh, wow. That I like a simple life. That my life doesn't have to be as complicated as it was. I had obviously periods when I was ill where I had quiet, I was forced into this quiet space, but my life's never quiet. I'm a very actionable doer. And it made me realise that actually, did I go out every Saturday like heels on and dressed up because I want to do, or was that, it suddenly became, I'm grateful for the choices. Before I just said yes to everything, and I learned very much so that I actually really enjoy being a housewife. I never realised that before, but I love making the tea. I've never made a tea in my whole career. I work late every night. I love making the tea, and I love sitting and having tea with my family. I actually don't love going partying every Saturday night. It was habit, and so just breaking the norm, it made us have that break, but just breaking the norm, and the same with COVID. When you're forced into a situation, I've used both of those times really for massive reflection, and I've came out of it with very different rules. So I'm grateful for it allowing me to see choices in my life. Yeah.
And that is a wonderful thing, isn't it? Choice. To know that you've got choice. Because some people think they haven't got choice, so they go down this rabbit hole of doing things they don't really want to do because they think they've got to do it. And before they know it, they've got to midlife and they look back and they think, well, what have I been doing? I've been a someone's all my life. I've forgotten who the someone was. What's it all been about? And I think that's what this podcast's about. It's about having interviews like this with you, Nicola, and showing people that we are never too old and it's never too late. You can change, can't you? And how important choice is.
Yeah. I think the flip side of that, as much as it made me say no a bit more, I always have in the back of my head, and particularly in the beginning, that what if I'm not here in 5 years? Will I say there's this place that we go for a walk in Slipwoods, and there's a huge big hole in the ground, an old mine, and it's full of the most freezing water you've ever seen in your life. And when I was little, I used to jump in. And I've gone as a mum, and as I've got older and took my kids and not jumped in, because we think like we shouldn't do that. And since I was poorly, every time I go to Slipwoods, no matter what I'm wearing, I've jumped in there in my knickers, because I just think, well, what would you regret more? Like getting your knickers wet and walking home soggy, or the fact that you had the chance to jump in there and not do it. So a bit of both.
I love that. And it's like when I was in my 30s and we were losing in my previous life, when I ended up bankrupt, I was with co-directors and we lost a business. And like you jumping in that water, my passion was horses, and I used to ride. And I used to ride competitively. And for whatever reason, anxiety kicked in and I just couldn't ride anymore. And then I came to the conclusion at the beginning of this year, I thought, if you want to ride and you want to feel that, that thrill and that rush and that adrenaline and that joy that you used to feel, you're going to have to get back on that horse, literally, but, pardon the pun. And I've started riding again. I've started riding again at 51, like 20 odd years since I've sat on a horse, really. And it's right, isn't it? It's like we've kind of got now or never. And are you going to lie there, if we get to our deathbed, which we will one day, going, I wish I'd jumped in that water, or me going, I wish I'd ridden that bloody horse. At least we can now say we did.
Yeah. We went to Greece last year, and there's a little, Portugal, and there's an island, and it's deserted. There's no inhabitants. You just have to get a boat there, and then the boat picks you up a couple of hours later. So I was desperate to go. And I said to my husband and my son, I'm going to take all my clothes off and go swimming when we get there. And they were like, no, you're not. I went, I am. I'm just going to do that. I want to swim naked in a beautiful warm sea on a deserted island. Anyway, we got, and I literally just took all my clothes off and ran in the sea. I mean, I'm very open at home anyway. I don't care. I'm always in my knickers. So my husband was saying all my bits before, and they were just like, this woman is crazy. But I felt so emotional in that water. So get a bit naked.
The message is, get naked.
Have fun.
Be like, get more, Nicola. Get naked and have more fun. I think that is absolutely bloody it. So the podcast Formidable Over 40 is very much about, basically helping anyone who might be listening in midlife, who might be feeling stuck. They might be feeling uninspired, thinking they've got more years behind them and in front of them, and this is it. They're stuck. you know? So this is all about sharing wonderful stories like you and I are chatting about now, to show them that they're never too old and it's never too late to design a life they love. My real passion. So what does Formidable Over 40 mean to you when you hear the words Formidable Over 40? What does it mean to you?
I've achieved more and been more fulfilled in the last 5 years than I had in the last 20, without a shadow of a doubt. Without a shadow of a doubt. My cup is full. My cup is full. I don't get us wrong. It comes, it's not plain sailing, but and I wake up every day and get to do something that absolutely fills me cup. And again, with the rules, I don't want to say rules, but with the decisions I make now, like I'm not hungover every Sunday. So I get Sunday mornings because actually I'm a big girl and I can say no if I don't want to go out and get drunk, which I don't. So, I don't do that as much anymore. And I refuse to work more than one late night a week. So I get like all of the new decisions that I've made, like my life is so much fuller now. Yeah. And just my old job, being a hairdresser, and I used to say, I get to go to work and make people feel better about themselves every day. Giving somebody new hair makes them feel great. There's no question of that. But giving back somebody hair when they've gotten on at the lowest time in their life, you can't imagine the feeling.
Because it's so personal. Your hair's so personal. It's like it completely, like, it just changes everything about you, doesn't it? And it is like wearing it's like your cloak of, I don't know how to describe it. It's just like,
your crown.
I don't know. It's a crown. It is. It literally is, isn't it? And to lose that, oh my Lord. I mean, what you do, it's just, I follow you all the time on Instagram. I just find what you do fascinating. I love it. And honestly, it's such an important thing that you're doing and you've created. I mean, it is. And for you, it must be so fulfilling every time you've got one of those clients in front of you, knowing how they felt.
Yeah. I think another thing that I do, obviously, in later life that I never did when I was younger, obviously we do loads for the community now, but one of my favourite things that I do is I volunteer at the hospice as just a hairdresser, and I go to the hospice once a month and I cut hair for people who might have days to live, might have months to live, and I just go as a hairdresser. It's my favourite day of the month. You've got and so I would say one of my biggest things that I would advocate is volunteering in some respect, or giving your time, or giving you the best of you to somebody else just for a tiny amount, because what you get from that in your heart and is I come out of there buzzing.
My aunt was in her 90s, Nicola, and she's just died of cancer of the esophagus, and going into the home every day to see her. And her hairdresser came in and did her hair for her. Yeah. And just the fact that she'd had her hair washed and it had been blow dried and trimmed and done, how she felt, it made such a difference. So I totally can get, what you're doing there. Yeah, and just to see her with her hair done, even just makes such a difference. It's such a personal thing, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. I cut a guy's hair the other week, and he was very, very sick, and he was asleep and sedated. And his wife said, "I'm so grateful that you came. Can you cut his hair?" And she showed me a picture of her husband. Oh my God, what a handsome bloke he was, and he was so sharp. And she says, "Can you make him look like that?" So we cut his hair, and like it was difficult, he was asleep, but we cut his hair, and she washed her hair in a rush because she wanted to be by his bedside, and I said, "I'll blow dry yours as well." And she says, no. And anyway, so I did the both of them. And she just said, "Okay, she says, it's the first time in a couple of years that he's looked like the man I married." And I forgot just how handsome he was. And she said she was going to get some pictures taken that day because they both just looked so well. Yeah, and that for me, I mean, that's worth more than any wages you can pay somebody in a month, isn't it? Getting that, making somebody feel that good feels amazing.
Yeah.
And I think that also volunteering or doing something like that takes you away from your day to day, takes you away from the hustle, takes you away from your phone. Like, I haven't got my phone, I haven't got my laptop, I haven't got the team, I haven't got any worries. All I'm doing, it just completely takes us away. Yeah, it's my favourite day.
Yeah, I think, and it like what you're saying there, I mean, the work you're doing is incredible. You've changed that lady's life. You really did, you know, and the impact that what you did for her there. But, you know, and also for yourself, you know, because I think it's important, isn't it, for yourself as well to have something that means so much to you as well. And like you say, to fill your cup, so you're not just going through the motions. You're actually doing something which is purposeful, but also that you're passionate about, because I think that passion creates that energy, and that energy is what you need in your business to keep all the balls in the air, isn't it?
That's right. But that, like I say, that a lot of the week I'm juggling and I'm doing that. But that one day I just get to slow down and just completely realign with my purpose and my why, and it brings it home for us.
And do so much good, you know, and to be able to do so much good. So going back to when you were, say, 15, right? So we'll have a look at Nicola, who's 15. What were you?
50. Yes, 50. I haven't been 50 yet.
I'm not 50 yet. When you were 15, and you know, what was Nicola doing? What were her dreams and what were her hobbies?
Oh my God, I was a naughty teenager, man. I was really naughty. I was wild. I wanted to do everything, try everything, go everywhere, I was naughty. I was so naughty. I was a rebel. Yeah, I mean, I'd really rather not get into that.
Would you rather skip that decade?
No, absolutely not. But I say to my 14-year-old all the time, Gabe, you've got no chance. Between me and your dad, we have been and done everything. You'll get away with nothing in this house. So, yeah, I think, you know, I was going out when I shouldn't. I was going out with boys a lot. I was just naughty. But I was driven. I had a Saturday job as a hairdresser. I had paper rounds to get me drinking money.
Yes.
I was permanently in trouble at school for smoking and just being naughty, But I think really I've always had an entrepreneurial mind, definitely. I've always been driven.
Well, if
don't ask us what I was like when I was 25, because it wasn't much different.
So when did you slow down? Have you know, when did you, I mean, obviously, you know, we've chatted about how your cancer sort of reframed and changed how you've thought and how you've made adjustments and changed the decisions and things in your life. Would you say that was the pivotal moment in your sort of life, or was there something before that? You know, you said you were wild and had loads of fun in your 15s and in your 20s, but was there anything that changed you, or would you say your cancer's been the defining moment?
No, certainly not. I think when I was a late teenager, we had my mum was remarried, and for one reason or another, my mum left when I was about, I want to say I was about 18 when she finally left. It went on for a few years, but she left and kind of never came back. And so from that age, I lived with my brother and sister who were younger than me. And that for me was the defining change. That was when I needed to grow up, earn some money, be responsible, find somewhere to live, that kind of thing. So that was probably the change in me. I still had loads of fun in my 20s, but I probably wasn't like this rebellious, wild person anymore.
Well, that's a lot of responsibility, isn't it, to suddenly to take on, you know, so. Yeah,
it was. But you can, for me, my brother and my sister, it was the absolute making of all of us. Like,
Yes.
we're so resilient, we're so strong, we're so independent, and very close, very, very close. We're like the three musketeers.
That's wonderful. That is absolutely wonderful. So we've talked a little bit about the Wonderful Wig Company and the absolutely amazing work that you're doing. But what would you say? I mean, you must have, gosh, you'll have seen so much. You'll have experienced so much with your patients, clients. Do you call them clients, patients? With the
clients with me, the patients when they're at the hospital.
In the hospital, yeah.
Clients, yeah.
Yeah, you can. So you'll have, you must have, got so many experiences. But what would you say you've learned the most from setting up the Wonderful Wig Company?
That I am so effing lucky, that I am blessed, that I am, every single day of my life I meet people in the most forlorn situations who are living every single moment because it is their last. And so, what's that expression? Don't whinge when you've got no socks because somebody's got no feet. Or something like that, it goes, every single day I am massively pulled back down to earth and grounded by the people around me going through much, 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 much worse than I have and making the very best of it. And so, that's it.
Yeah, God, absolutely. And I mean, touching on the cancer, there may be people who are listening to this who've just been diagnosed. I get messages from people who say to me, I've just been diagnosed with cancer and blah, blah, blah. And, can you, share some advice or they just want to talk sometimes. And that's absolutely, I'm always delighted to listen and support wherever I can. But, to somebody who has maybe just been diagnosed with cancer, what advice would you give to them now, in how to sort of navigate through it? It's a hard thing, isn't it? How do you help someone navigate through cancer?
Yeah. So two things that spring to mind for me are a notepad and a pen. Write everything down because your head's a washing machine with all of the thoughts. And so I found writing down whenever I had a worry or a question, I would write it down because I would obviously forget it before I went back to the hospital. So I would write it down. One of the most difficult things I think for me was I was 36 and although I knew many, many people who'd had cancer, none of them were 36 with a 6-year-old with their own business. None of them had the same worries as I did. And I told you before about my relationship with my sister is amazing, but I knew her heart was breaking that I had cancer. So I didn't want to tell her how worried I was because he tried to protect them and I didn't want to tell my husband because I knew he was going through it anyway. So my biggest thing would be to find a cancer buddy. I know that sounds weird, but as soon as I found a couple of women who were in their 30s with young family, one of them even had their own business, and I connected with them. I joined lots of different groups online and in person at different little charities and just having the ability to be completely open with what is a stranger, then nobody that loves you. You're not allowed. But if you've got one person that you can talk to who doesn't love you, you can be as honest as you want with them and they will totally get it. And I was lucky enough to find a couple of ladies like that, and it really changed because then I could offload all of my real deep worries and feelings without doing that to my husband or sister who I wanted to protect. So that was my sort of notepad and a cancer friend really helped me.
Yeah, that is really, really good advice because like you say, your family are going through such turbulence as well, and they're terrified, aren't they? And their whole world's been turned upside down and they've probably got so many questions that they want to ask, but they don't want to ask you because they don't want to frighten you. So it's like a whole vicious circle, isn't it?
Yeah, and I know some people can afford counselling, psychologists and things like that. Again, that would be great. But if you can't, there are hundreds of online forums and groups and local charities where they have specifically, like Maggie's, they had a specific group for younger women, and I attended there, and like in that hour I got so much release. Just by being able to be honest, because if you think about I would much rather have cancer than my sister have it.
Yes.
So I did not want to give so the thought of me being in her shoes would be just as bad. So that was my greatest bit of help came from strangers, I think.
Yeah, I think that is such good advice, because like you say, everybody's got to let off steam, but everybody's too frightened to. That becomes the thing, doesn't it, where people don't want to talk about it and they won't talk about things in front of you. But sometimes you just need to talk about it, don't you? And when it's not just sometimes you need to talk about it, you do, like you've just said there. There's so many questions, and I think that idea of the notepad's brilliant, because I can remember, and I still do now, because I go for my 6 months checks to a hospital, and I still remember, like now, to write things down as well when I'm going for my appointments, so I don't forget. And I think it's important, if you've got any questions, never think there's any question that's silly. There's never a silly question, is there? Never a silly question.
No. And actually, I mean, I love it if somebody asks me a question about hair. Like, people like questions. People are too frightened to ask, but actually most people love questions.
Yeah, exactly. And because I think it's also nice to think that if you can help somebody, and if you can try and help to put somebody's mind at rest, to give someone some peace, I never get sick of questions. I'm always happy to help wherever I can. So the Wonderful Wig Company, I mean, you're just going from this phenomenal, like you said there, 7-figure business that you've built. What's next? What's happening? Where's the business going? What are the plans?
So I don't think that we're going to, we're now covering the whole of the Northeast, and I'm not entirely sure that we talk about development outside of that. But actually, for me, I kind of want to know everybody in my team, and I don't want to spend my life in the car. So for me now, that would be. We've talked lots about it in our meetings, but I kind of don't sit well with going any further than I have with me face-to-face. So because at the moment I know everybody in my team, and I don't spend my life in the car. And yes, we could grow the business probably another 10 times if I wanted to take it outside of the Northeast face-to-face. But I'm not sure that I want to do that. So we're going to grow it in other ways, which would be through our e-commerce platform and through offering education, and hopefully when I finish my book. We also just qualified. I spent the last year or so qualifying as a trichologist, which is kind of the science behind hair and scalp conditions. So we're going to be offering trichology services soon as well.
No, that's fantastic. And it's really interesting that a lot of the guests who come on Formidable Over 40 have gone on and restudied.
Yeah.
So, and it's like there was a lady just earlier on today who I was interviewing, and she started studying again in her 40s. Again, she went and did an MA in her 40s. And that's another strong message, isn't it? That, even I had a client who was 40, so she was in mid 40s and retraining to be a teacher.
Wow.
There's no age that says you can't go back and study. So anyone listening to this in a career they don't like.
So I did it when I was 42 and had the biggest business ever to run, the most like plates spinning ever, but it has been something inside of me since I was 20 that I wanted to have an academic qualification in hair. And so I just thought and also now it's the missing link I feel in my business. It's the thing that would make me be able to get a young person some funding quicker, because I can help with that hospital wait time and stuff like that with having this qualification. So when I said to the team like 18 months ago, I'm going to go and do this qualification, they were all like, oh my God, what you playing at?
He's doing it now.
Are you absolutely for real? Are you for real? Why on earth do you want this? I went, because it's something that's been on my mind. If I don't tick it, like, I'll regret it. So this is never going to be a good time for me to go back to school. And in another 3 years, it might be busier again. So it's been hard. I'm not going to lie. It's been very, very hard finding that day a week to commit to studying. But I qualified 2 weeks ago. So
that is absolutely fantastic. Huge congratulations. And that's like putting that bit of the jigsaw that's just been missing in there, isn't it? It just
yeah.
Me,
it was the missing link in terms of, like going to the NHS and talking about providing a wig service, being a hairdresser, being a cancer survivor. But for me, I wanted that academia behind us that said, and actually, I'm very qualified.
Yes.
And for me, that was the missing link. So,
No, I think that's absolutely fantastic. It really is. And again, it just follows the mantra that you're never too old and you're never too late to design the life you love. So if you're listening.
Another one, though, and if you hear us saying I'm doing another one, give us a slap.
Now, hey, knowing you could be doing anything this time next year. You're amazing. You're an absolute bloody inspiration, Nicola. I love you. I think you're absolutely fantastic. You really are. So you're a busy woman. You've got a lot going on. You've got a big business. There's a lot of women who struggle to find some time for themselves, and they end up getting onto that path of I'm a someone, I'm not a someone's. I don't even know what I like anymore. I can't remember when I was last happy. What is your advice to finding that bit of balance where you can still have some time for you? What can these women do who say, oh, no, I can't do that. I haven't got time. And yet you run all those businesses and you've gone and done your studying. You found the time. What do you say to these people who are making excuses? I haven't got the time. How do they sort it out?
Doing less, achieving more. Like I have in the business, I have 2 solid do days where all I do is to do. You know how it is, my busy days. And I sit at my desk and I don't move. I'm not interrupted. I don't get distracted. I just do. Then 1 day a week, without compromise, is a day that I spend on doing something that's my next big picture. So for the last year, that day a week has been spent studying, and probably for the next year, that's going to be finishing writing this book. So, and no matter how busy I am, because I could do all day on a Friday as well, but I just don't.
No. Can you tell us a bit about your book? Can you give us a little snippet? Can we have not a snippet, but just can you give us a little peek, or are we not allowed to know a little peek?
Yeah, I'm just writing all the reasons my life's meant since I had cancer.
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Oh, well, I cannot wait to read that. I cannot wait. So when do you think you're going to have it done by?
Well, I mean, I've got a deadline. I've got an internal deadline, but I'm not sure I'm willing to share that.
Comfortable, and I'm messaging you saying, now, Nicola, you said this book was going to be done. I'm waiting for it. Where is it?
Q1 2024.
A roundabout.
Yes.
No, that's fine. So what does me time look like for Nicola then? What do? You make a lot of people feel fantastic. What do you do to feel good and have some time for yourself?
So honestly, like I told you, that day of volunteering is my favourite day of the month. That for me is really downtime. I swim. So I go to the gym and I swim probably 3 mornings, 4 mornings if I can. I swim a mile. And on every Saturday morning, I go to the beach. I do a walk, then I do a dip in the sea.
Oh, how fab. Yeah. So you're one of those cold water swimmers?
Oh, yes, yes, I love it. And I meet friends for coffee doing that kind of stuff. So my gym doesn't have any reception, so when I'm there, I'm there.
Yeah.
Nobody compares. And I do that first thing on a morning.
First, before you do anything, that's your priority.
Yeah, because I'm the type of person I am, I don't know whether it's anxiety, but for me, it's like I have this massive, massive amount of adrenaline, and
Yeah.
when I wake up, too much adrenaline. I don't know whether that's anxiety or what, but it's much worse first thing in the morning. So I wake up and I'm like, and I'm a real early riser. So I just burn that off. Yeah, so I go and I burn that off, and that's the first thing I do before I even speak to anybody. I do that, and then I feel, oh, right, I'll have my breakfast and I'll plan my day. But when I wake up, I've just got so much energy that I like an hour that's just for me.
And I think that's really important as well, especially when you've got so much going on. I mean, okay, yeah, you've got a lot of adrenaline and so forth, but I think for you to recognize that, because sometimes people don't recognize it, and for you to recognize that and get yourself out there, go to the gym, you get in the right headspace, you know, you're in that right place, aren't you, to run your business, and because you've got a lot of informed decisions to make. So you've got to have that clear head and clear space. And I think this is where a lot of people go wrong in business. They think, I've got to be at my desk. Is it 6 o'clock in the morning and I've got to leave at 8 o'clock at night? And I'm like, whoa, hang on a minute. What's that? Where's the space for creativity and innovation? Where's the space for, you know, just taking a little step back and that big picture thinking? You kind do that from your desk.
No, well, ironically, I got another life lesson probably in 2021. I was off work seriously poorly for a couple of months, and it was just when the business went back after lockdown. So, you know, it was a busy business then, but you can imagine how many people we had waiting as hairdressers and stuff then. And I couldn't come back. I wasn't in a position to come back to work. And you know, you go from thinking that you cannot be off for a day because the business will fold, and my business grew when I was off. And the team managed. I didn't get any phone calls. They knew that they couldn't do that. And, you know, that was a big life lesson to me. Like, if it can run for 3 months without us being here, without us making a decision, then do I need to be at my desk 3 days a week, or do I just need to trust the people who I've employed to have my heart, and all do. They're all so good.
That's trusting you as well. You know, you've got to think about that's trusting you as well, because you, as a leader, that is real strength, because that shows that, you know, you can delegate. You've allowed those people to grow. You've allowed those people to step up so that you can step back. And when you do step back, these people, you can quite confidently know that these people are going to run and grow your business. And that is sometimes a real failing of leaders, where they don't allow their team to step up. They don't, and yet they've employed these people with the whole reason and purpose that they're there to support them to grow the business. But when they come in, they don't let them do the job, and then nothing grows and does. So in terms of like being a good delegator, you know, and to a leader who's not letting go, you know, who's fear of always being in control, what would you say to that person?
Let it go. It's
let it go. Let it go.
Let it go. It's just oh wow, you get the best out of people when you let them have a go. What's the worst that can happen? What's the worst that can happen? They feel valued. They feel heard. They have better ideas than you. Like, it's not my ideas wins. Who's got the best idea around the table? You know, like, I've got a fab little team, and I value them, and they value what we do, and it works.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think it sounds absolutely wonderful, because if you're a leader who just wants to be surrounded by yes people, then your business will never be any bigger than just you. And that's putting a lot of pressure. So anyone listening who wants to be surrounded by yes people and can't let go of control, your business is only ever be as big as what you say and what you think. Whereas if you've got that powerful team around you who are innovative and creative, and maybe some younger, some older, the older ones might have more knowledge, the younger ones may have more creativity. You know, you've got to be surrounded by that mix of people, and confident to allow them to grow and make make the choices and inspire you, because otherwise you well, you're stagnating, aren't you?
Yeah. And I think as well, just being flexible, they all tell me which days they work, which hours they work. Everybody's part-time. Nobody works more than 4 days. So I think because they've got a happy workspace, they're all at it when they come in, And also, I think another tip would be like hide your weaknesses. I'm crap. I don't like social media, so I've got somebody who's really good at it. Great with tech, so I've got somebody who's really great with tech. So that we all have different skill sets. I'm not hiring like 20 of me.
No. What are your strengths, Nicola?
Resilience. I'm very resilient. And I'd like to say I'm a really good pest. I'm like a really, really good pest. If I want something, I'm not frightened to ask for it 30 times until you cave in and say yes to us. Ask anybody in the NHS. I'm the world's biggest pest.
Writing them down and like, just give that woman whatever she wants.
Yeah, and we're going to get made, actually. We're going, like, our motto in our shy Ben's getting out. And that is true. If you don't ask, you don't get. Say what you want. Just don't be afraid. What's the worst that can happen? Somebody can say no to you. I'm not frightened to ask.
No, I'm not either. I think that's exactly it. And I think that's how, I've maybe managed to get myself out of some of the scrapes I've got myself in by just saying, put my hand up and saying, look, I need your help. So nice to see you. And what I always ask my guests to do is to pay forward a bit of advice to anybody who's listening. And there may be someone who's listening to this podcast who's feeling really stuck and they're thinking, do you know what? I want to give it I want to reinvent my life. These ladies are right. I'm never too old. It's never too late to design the life you love. What would you say to them? What have they got to do to get unstuck?
Stop waiting for something to happen to be happy. Like when this happens, I will do that. When I've lost this weight, I will go to the gym. When I've had this holiday, I'll hand me notice. Like, literally jump now. Like, there is no tomorrow's not guaranteed. So do it now. Like, literally stop being a dick and do it now.
Stop being a dick. Listen, if you're listening, you've got to stop being a dick. That is really good advice.
It's appropriate, but like, literally stop talking about it. Done. Action.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Nicola, thank you so much. Can you share with the listeners where they can find out all about you and the Wonderful Wig Company?
Well, I am all over social media. However, I can't guarantee it will be me responding on there, but you can get me on there 100%. Yeah. And I am on LinkedIn, Nicola Wood, with the website wonderfulwigs.co.uk, and on Instagram, the Wonderful Wig Company. And I promise, if you tell me you're on Sarah's podcasts, I will answer anything you have throw at me personally.
Absolutely fantastic. So, only leaves me to say is thank you for listening to the Formidable Over 40 podcast. Thank you so much to the wonderful Nicola for joining us and inspiring us. Head to the show notes to find links to Nicola's socials and how to find out more about the Wonderful Wig Company. Follow the podcast so you don't miss any future episodes, and please do share Formidable Over 40 with anyone you think will enjoy it or needs to hear it. Please do like and subscribe.